Okay, so let's unpack this. Imagine you were trying to resolve a really complex compliance issue for your business.
Right. Right, which is already a headache for anyone listening.
Exactly, a total nightmare.
Okay.
So you've gathered your files, you've prepped your team, and you're waiting for the government official who's going to audit your entire network. You open the virtual meeting room, but the official's staring back at you.
Or, the official silently parsing through millions of rows of your proprietary data in a fraction of a second.
Yeah, exactly, because it isn't a person at all. It is an autonomous piece of code,
Yeah.
an algorithm.
It's wild to even think about.
It is, and the craziest part is that this isn't science fiction.
Yeah.
Right now, as we speak, there is a formal proposal sitting in front of the Indian government to literally replace human bureaucrats with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive today is to really figure out how a machine actually becomes the law.
Well, the tension here is just, it's foundational to the entire future of administration. We are rapidly moving past this era where algorithms are merely, tools.
Right, like a search function or a spreadsheet.
Exactly. Tools used by human regulators to just sort through data. This new proposal forces us to envision a world where the AI itself is the actual legal authority.
Which is a huge leap.
It's massive. You immediately collide two opposing forces here. On one side, you have the tantalizing promise of radical government cost-cutting and just hyper-efficiency.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, you have the absolute non-negotiable need for legal accountability. When a machine writes and enforces the rules completely autonomously, the traditional mechanisms of holding power in check, they simply break down.
They just evaporate. But wait, before we give an algorithm the actual legal power to, shut down a business, we have to look at the global context that is supposedly justifying this whole leap.
Oh, yeah, the global precedents.
Because I was looking through the source material, and some of the precedents being cited read like a satirical sci-fi novel.
They really do.
Albania's prime minister formally appointed a virtual AI named Diela as a quote-unquote minister of state for artificial intelligence.
Yes, Diela.
And then there's the addition of 83 yet-to-be-born children robots as additional ministers.
Which is just a bizarre phrase.
Right. 83 unborn robot ministers. It feels like a PR stunt. It is super easy to write a press release, but it is much, much harder to actually give an algorithm the legal power to regulate real citizens.
Very true.
So are any of these countries actually crossing that line from PR to practical law, or is this all just global theater?
Well, so that theater is actually serving a very specific psychological function.
Or how so?
Whether these international novelties like Albania's virtual minister or, Saudi Arabia granting citizenship to a humanoid robot named Sophia.
Oh, yeah, Sophia.
Right. Or even that Polish beverage company appointing an AI named Mika as its actual CEO.
Right, I remember that.
Whether those started as public relations stunts or not doesn't really matter anymore because they are actively being weaponized to justify real structural change.
Ah, I see.
It creates this progression of normalization. You start with symbolic citizenship, then you move to corporate leadership, and then suddenly you're at actual government titles.
It just chips away at the weirdness of it.
Exactly. And the core argument being made to the Indian government right now leverages that exact progression.
Hey, everyone else is doing it.
Pretty much. The argument essentially asks, if a Polish company trusts an AI to run its whole business, and Albania is conceptualizing AI as state ministers, why shouldn't India drastically reduce its massive government expenditure by replacing a substantial portion of its civil service with AI agents?
It is the ultimate austerity measure if you think about it. You don't have to pay a pension to an algorithm.
Nope.
You don't have to give it sick leaves. You don't deal with labor unions or worry about, human error during a 12-hour shift.
Zero overhead, basically.
But jumping from a Polish beverage company's PR-friendly digital CEO to a literal government bureaucrat wielding actual state power over 1 billion people in India, that is a massive conceptual canyon to cross.
It is, but that gap is bridging faster than we might think, mainly because it's being presented as a very serious fiscal strategy, not just some thought experiment.
Right.
This proposal explicitly aims to catch the attention of the highest levels of national leadership. They are pitching the replacement of human employees with AI agents as the ultimate key to economic efficiency.
Wow.
Yeah, it elevates the entire conversation from a theoretical white paper to a direct pitch for a completely new kind of state apparatus. And, that apparatus needs a testing ground.
And that testing ground happens to be India's Ministry of Information Technology, right?
Yes, mighty.
Mighty, okay. And the specific target for this is compliance with the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or the DPDPA.
That's the one.
So we are talking about regulating how personal data is handled across this massive, incredibly complex digital economy.
Right, and enforcing a framework like the DPDPA across over 1 billion people and just countless businesses. I mean, that is an administrative nightmare for any human bureaucracy.
Oh, for sure.
Traditional regulatory frameworks are simply overwhelmed by the sheer volume of digital transactions, all the data harvesting practices, and just the intricacies of modern corporate networks.
Because there's just too much data for humans to look at.
Exactly. Human regulators using spreadsheets and random sampling techniques are fundamentally outmatched by the architecture they are trying to police.
Which I guess explains why a media executive actually suggested that companies should start appointing enterprise AI as their data protection officers just to manage their own compliance logs.
Right. They need AI just to follow the rules.
Yeah, and cybersecurity specialists are apparently backing this up. So the corporate side is already arming up with algorithmic defense.
Yeah, it's an arms race.
But this new proposal flips the script completely. It suggests putting this into practice on the government side by appointing an AI as an quote-unquote additional secretary to MAIDI.
Which is a very high-level position.
Right, but giving an AI the keys to data protection compliance. That feels less like hiring a security guard and more like installing a smoke detector that also has the legal authority to bulldoze your entire building if it senses a fire.
That captures the inherent danger perfectly, I think. But, from a purely mechanical standpoint, untangling massive webs of unstructured corporate data is exactly what machine learning models are designed to do.
True, they are good at that.
And AI doesn't get fatigued. It doesn't overlook some tiny anomaly buried on page 10,000 of a server log.
Right.
If the objective is to map the entire data architecture of a multinational corporation to ensure it complies with the law, an AI executes that exponentially faster and more comprehensively than any team of human auditors ever could.
So it's, like I said, it's an arms race. If companies need AI just to figure out how to comply with the law, the government feels they need an AI to figure out if those companies are actually telling the truth.
Exactly.
Because you can't just send a human with a clipboard to audit a massive server farm.
You really can't. And that is the fertile ground for this whole AI additional secretary concept. But we need to distinguish between a standard algorithm and what this proposal specifically calls for.
Okay, what's the difference?
The proposal calls for an agentic AI.
Agentic AI.
Yes. This isn't just some passive program that waits for a company to, upload a PDF report for it to scan. Agentic AI has agency. It is goal-oriented and autonomous.
Meaning what exactly? Like it decides how to investigate you on its own.
Precisely. An agentic AI would log directly into a company's network. It wouldn't just read what it's handed. It would actively search, navigate permissions, and adapt to new network architectures on the fly.
Wow, just poking around in your system.
Yeah, and thoroughly analyzing your personal data collection practices. It acts autonomously to assess the risk profile presented by a company's activities, and it does it without needing human prompts for every single step of the investigation.
So just think about the servers at your own company right now. Imagine an autonomous government program logging into your Slack channels, your financial logs, your customer databases tonight, just crawling through the architecture without a human prompting its every move.
It's intense.
It's super intense. And it's doing this to make a specific legal determination under the DPDPA rules, specifically Rule 23, right?
That's correct, Rule 23.
It has to decide if a company is a significant data fiduciary or an SDF. Wait, so significant data fiduciary, is that just a fancy bureaucratic way of saying a tech giant?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, but why does a company care if an AI slaps that label on them? Is it just a title?
Oh, no, it is far more than just a label. It is a massive financial and operational burden.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if an organization gets tagged as an SDF, their compliance requirements just skyrocket immediately.
Like what kind of requirements?
They have to conduct periodic data audits, they have to appoint specific independent data auditors, and their legal liabilities multiply significantly. It is a highly consequential regulatory threshold that can fundamentally alter a company's profitability and just their structural operations.
And the proposal suggests that this agentic AI makes that declaration autonomously.
Completely autonomously.
So it does the math, it maps the risk, and it declares you an SDF. The AI is literally the auditor, the judge, and the jury all rolled into one. And the math becomes legally binding.
That right there is the crux of the entire paradigm shift, because this assessment is officially conducted by a delegated authority of the government.
Even though that authority is a line of code.
Right, even if that authority is an algorithm, its outputs carry the force of law. It becomes binding on the judiciary at a later date if the question ever comes up in court.
That is wild.
We are delegating a core function of the administrative state to an autonomous agent, and we are expecting human courts to just defer to its logic.
Okay, so let me get this straight. If a company gets flagged as an SDF, and they try to sue the government saying, hey, we aren't that big, the AI misread our network structure.
Right.
The human judge looking at that case might be legally bound by the AI's original assessment.
Yes.
So you literally cannot appeal the algorithm's math because the judge can't even read the math in the first place.
It completely bypasses traditional human administrative review.
That is terrifying.
And there is also an alternative mechanism proposed that achieves the exact same end without the government AI logging in directly.
Okay, how does that work?
The proposal suggests utilizing an approved third-party compliance management system, like, for example, the one being developed by the telecom giant Geo.
Oh, okay.
If the government endorses a specific platform as the approved DPDPA compliance system, that software could be configured to automatically surveil a company's operations from the inside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then report their SDF status directly to the Data Protection Board.
It's like a digital Trojan horse.
Essentially, yes.
You install the approved compliance software thinking it's going to help your business, and it automatically rats you out to the government the second you cross a data threshold.
Exactly. Either way, whether it's logging in from the outside or reporting from the inside, the human regulator is completely removed from the loop.
And from what I read, this isn't just about one specific data law, right?
No, not at all.
The stated ambition of this proposal is to prove the concept here, and once it's successful, mandate that all government departments replace at least 50% of their secretaries and 75% of their employees with AI.
Yep. Which explicitly references those 83 yet-to-be-born robot children from Albania as, like, the model for this whole transition.
Which is just, I can't even get past the phrase unborn robot children.
It's definitely a choice of words, but the end goal is to fundamentally hollow out the human element of the civil service. It is a total ground-up transformation of the state workforce.
It is staggering. But, okay, here is the ultimate twist in this whole deep dive.
The twist.
After laying out this incredibly radical, super comprehensive plan to hand over the government to agentic AI, the actual publisher of this proposal vehemently disagrees with it.
It is such a fascinating rhetorical strategy.
I couldn't believe it when I read it.
Yeah, the publisher, Naavi.org, who released this anonymous corporate official's proposal, they explicitly state they do not consider it a desirable proposition.
They published a concept they fundamentally oppose.
Purely to trigger a necessary public debate about the direction of the Ministry of Information Technology. They cite freedom of speech and freedom of the press.
It is such a funny mental image, like typing up this grand dystopian vision of a futuristic AI bureaucracy, hitting publish, and then immediately adding a disclaimer saying, by the way, this is a terrifying idea. Please don't actually do this.
Yeah, please ignore everything you just read.
They even poke fun at the anonymous author. They joke that they won't comment on whether this anonymous corporate official is a human, a cyborg, a humanoid robot like Nika, or a chatbot, and they ask readers to be, quote-unquote, sensitive to this issue.
The satire really highlights the absurdity of the current discourse. But, importantly, it serves to set up a very serious counterproposal.
Right, because they don't just complain, they offer an alternative.
Exactly. To combat this vision of autonomous agentic AI making binding legal decisions, the publisher introduces what they call the DGPSI AI framework.
The DGPSI AI framework.
Okay.
What does that actually do?
Well, the core mandate of this counter framework is the absolute necessity of a designated, quote-unquote, human handler for every single AI application deployed by the government.
So the idea being that there has to be a human neck on the line, essentially.
Yes. The human handler takes full legal responsibility for the activities and the decisions taken by the AI.
Okay, but let's pause and actually think about that mechanism for a second.
Sure.
Does a human handler actually solve the accountability problem if the AI is still doing all the heavy computational lifting?
And this gets to the most critical vulnerability in the entire debate around AI regulation. The concept of a human handler sounds really comforting, right?
Right, because it's a person.
Exactly. It provides a human face to take the blame. It creates this illusion of control. But consider the reality of how machine learning actually works, particularly the black box problem.
Right, where we don't really know how it gets its answers.
Exactly. The systems we are talking about, they don't just follow a linear set of rules. They weigh millions of variables simultaneously in ways that are often incomprehensible even to the programmers who originally built them.
So if an agentic AI processes millions of network data points in milliseconds to make a legally binding declaration about a company's data practices, a human handler can't truly audit that math.
It's impossible.
If the AI flags a company, the human handler is just going to look at a dashboard that says, SDF status, true.
Yep.
They aren't going to manually recalculate 10 million lines of server logs to make sure the machine got it right.
No, of course not. The human handler inevitably just becomes a rubber stamp.
Wow.
They provide the legal fiction of human oversight without having the actual cognitive capacity to oversee the machine's logic.
That's a great way to put it, a legal fiction.
The human is placed there merely to absorb the legal liability, not to genuinely control or even understand the regulatory process. If a human brain cannot comprehend the path the algorithm took to reach its conclusion, the human is not a handler. They are just a hostage to the output.
Oh, man. It's like putting a human in the driver's seat of a self-driving car that doesn't actually have a steering wheel.
Exactly.
And taping their hands to the dashboard and then telling them, hey, you are legally responsible for wherever this car decides to drive.
That is the perfect analogy. And the tension between the incredible speed and scale of the agentic AI proposal and then the deeply flawed accountability of the human handler framework, that tension is going to define the next decade of administrative law.
I can see why.
We are desperate for the hyper-efficiency of algorithmic processing to manage the modern digital economy. But we are equally desperate to have a human being to point the finger at when the system inevitably fails.
We want it both ways.
We really do. We want the benefits of a machine that thinks faster than we do, but we want to punish it like a person.
Which brings us right back to you, listening to this right now. We started this whole deep dive with the almost comical idea of robot citizens in Saudi Arabia and unborn AI ministers in Albania.
It feels like a lifetime ago.
It does. But we've traced how those novelties are greasing the wheels for a very real, very serious shift in India. The real possibility of an autonomous, agentic AI logging directly into your company's network to issue binding government regulations.
Because the theoretical debates are rapidly becoming practical legal realities.
Yeah.
Driven by the really powerful catalyst of reducing massive state expenditures, delegating administrative power to algorithms is no longer a sci-fi thought experiment. It is a viable policy option sitting on the desks of government executives today.
So, whether you are a student trying to understand tech policy, a business owner managing client data, or just a citizen interacting with your local government, the future of how you are regulated may soon lack a heartbeat.
A sobering thought.
Truly. We are watching a collision in real time. The undeniable efficiency of an agentic AI auditor crashing into the desperate attempt to maintain human accountability. So as you go about your day, relying on various algorithms to curate your news, filter your emails, or map your commute, I want to leave you with a lingering thought.
Let's hear it.
If an agentic AI makes a legally binding decision that completely bankrupts a company based on a flawless but totally incomprehensible data assessment,
Right.
and the human handler was just a rubber stamp who actually goes to jail when things go wrong, when an algorithm makes the law, can you put code on trial?